Right, good afternoon, folks. Hopefully we're through now and we're on. That's Facebook sorted out. That's good afternoon, folks. It's 2 Davies on the 21st of 12th, 2023, minus a Davy. But we did say that to you on Monday that David would not be along today. So today, the 2 Davies will be done in the style of Indie Truck Davy. But we'll get to that in a wee minute, okay? Now, folks, I want to give a wee plug to a channel, a nice young fella called his channel's Reagan Elite. And I've put a link into the YouTube video for his channel. Now, we were on his channel the other night there watching his live stream, myself and Daily Blase. And he said he'd like to get 500 subscribers for Christmas. It would make his Christmas. So Daily Blase's put a plug out and he's passed the 500 mark. He's up with the 600 mark. So I've left a link in the comments, guys. If you can get him to 700, that would be very much appreciated on his route to 1,000. He's a new channel. Young fella does news and current affairs. Does it a wee bit different for David and I. I've noticed a lot of them do a wee bit different from David and I. We very seldom will pick a single article and put it up and use that as a reference for the issue we're speaking about. What David and I tend to do is we'll split down the issues and then we'll go and have a look at different opinions and then we'll form our own opinions. And that's why you tend to get less of that. But his channel is good. It's very interesting. So I'd really much appreciate it if you guys could help get him to 700. Okay. But if Daily Blase is here, it looks like we've made the fella's Christmas for him, Daily Blase. Right, so what we got, 90. Well, yeah, a wee minute, yeah, bit early. So as I say, young fella does some great work. As I say, he does things a wee bit different. And he also covers geopolitics really well. So he does. So there's a link in the YouTube for people on YouTube. Click on his link. He's got a live feed coming up tonight. And subscribe. There's a favour. Okay. Right, we're up to our 100 mark, so let's get this broadcast underway. And it's Indie Truck Davy, out the truck and at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it is clear at the moment, 7 degrees, blowing a bloody hoolie. Anyway, that's the weather forecast for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. You want to know the weather it's like when you are? Look at your own bloody windy. Alright, first up, the budget. And what's in it? Okay, well, let's have a look at some of the highlights. Just to let you know what the budget is, that's a block grant that comes up the road to Westminster, made up of your tax money and a proportionate share of spending on competencies, covered health, education, everything else, down that road. Okay, so basically the budget is a breakdown of the spend and devolved competencies. Get a mouthful for you, devolved competencies, you get competencies. Right, anyway, what's in it? 13.2 billion for health, £500 million more than the year before. 6.3 billion for devolved Scottish benefits, 1 billion more than last year. And this includes a further uplift in the child payment for eligible children. It will now go from £25 per week to £26.70 per week for eligible children. A great help for lifting families out of poverty. Now, 6.3 billion is for the 15 new benefits created by the Scottish benefit system, which is a separate system and works alongside the UK-wide benefit system. But as you know, the Scottish benefit system treats people more with compassion rather than judging them and trying to punish them, which is what we seem to see for down the road in the house that they're using carpetbaggers. All right, policing, it's got 1.5 billion, and that's up 75 million on the year before. But remember, the Scottish Police Service is basically getting charged VAT. The only police service in the whole UK that gets charged VAT. So that 75 million only covers the VAT bill. Right, fire and rescue to get 43 million, 13.6 million more than last year. And it's also to get an additional capital spending of 10.3 million to spend on equipment and maintaining the estate. Right, education. There's an additional 200 million to narrow the attainment gap. And this is in line with the 1 billion promised over the life of this parliament. So this is the latest 200 million instalment. And as we know, the idea is that the money goes to head teachers and they spend it to try and lift the levels of literacy and numeracy in schools. All right, and of course close the attainment gap between those with the most and those with the least. Because let's face it, those with the least, when they send their children to school, they send them hungry, cold, tired, dirty, because they can't afford to look after them in this cost of living crisis. And children who are hungry and tired don't learn well. Right, the council tax freeze, 144 million across all 32 councils. Now this covers what would be a 5% increase across the board in 2024. So that's the council tax relief. So there'll be a freeze in the council tax next year. There's for the green and circular economy, it gets 66.9 million as part of the $500 million promised to build a green supply, an offshore wind supply chain over the life of this parliament. All right. Now, access to transport, 2.5 billion. 220 million of that is for active travel, that's cycle routes, encouraging people to walk and things like that. Putting daft signs up saying 20 mile an hour, that sort of thing, right? There's also in there, it covers the cost of a concessionary travel for 12 to 23-year-olds and for the over 60s. It's also covering the cost of scrapping the peak time rates on ScotRail during the trial period. And also in there is a funding for an upgrading the A9 for Tom and Tool to May. So that's the next section of the A9 to be kicked up. Now what they're trying to tell us is that the A9 will not be due completely by 2025. Now we know that. What this press are speculating is it'll be another 10 years on top of that. That depends on how things go. Right, there is 680 million in schemes to help small and medium-sized enterprises, but no replication of the short-term relief in England, where they're getting the rates relief for the year. What the Scottish Government are saying is their schemes are permanent. The Westminster scheme, which the cuckoos in the nest up here want us to follow, is only a temporary measurement. All right. There was also the creation. Oh, I mean, I jumped the page. No, I didn't. The creation of a new income tax rate for those earning 75,000 to 125,000. Now, what are the income tax bands in Scotland and how do they affect you? Well, the starter rate is set by Westminster at 12,571, and it's 12,571 to 14,732 pounds in Scotland. You will only pay 19% as an income tax. All right. Now the basic rate, 14,732 pounds to 25,688 pounds, is the same as the rest of the UK. That's 20%. And that is 56% of the Scottish workforce. So at this point, you're either, if you're on less than 14,732, you're paying less than anywhere else in the UK. If you're on 14,732 to 25,688, you're paying the same. Right, then we come to the intermediate rate at 25,689 to 43,662 pounds. you will pay 21%, sorry, you will pay in tax in that brand, in the intermediate ratio, all right? In the higher ratio, 43,663 to 75,000, you pay 42%. At the advanced rate, which is the new rate, 75,000 to 125,140, that's now at 45%. And the top rate is a 125,141 and above will be charged at 47 or 48%, depending on how much above it you are. All right. So that's basically the main things that were covered in the budget. There were other things in there, of course, the cost of mitigating the worst of the crap was coming to Westminster, like the bedroom tax, the two children cap on benefits and things like that. Okay. Now, after the budget, as we know, we had the budget debate. And the three cuckoos in the nest, well, yeah, they were going to have to nut about the tax rise, the start a new tax thing. Right, I better clear this up for viewers in England who don't get cuckoos in the nest bit. Here in Scotland, in the Scottish Parliament, we have three cuckoos in the nest, just to explain this for our viewers overseas. And they are all English registered political parties squatting in the Scottish Parliament. So when we talk about the cuckoo, when I talk about the cuckoos in the nest, most of my audience know I'm talking about Labour, Labour, Lib Dem, and Tory scum. Alright. So, as I say, the three cuckoos in the nest are no happy with a new tax. Tough. People in Scotland are quite happy to pay tax for their services. Anyway, Shona Robertson, the Deputy First Minister, the other thing they kept going on about was growth. They're saying the Scottish Government, the reason for tax rate rises was the Scottish Government had failed to grow the Scottish economy. Now, Shona Robertson, the Deputy First Minister and Finance Secretary, reminds them that over the last decade, Scotland's economy has grown faster than the rest of the UK's economy, with Scotland's growth rate over the decade at 10% compared to 6.8% in our UK for the same 10-year period. Shona then also has to remind them that the economy is reserved and that their imperial masters in Westminster have crashed the fucking economy. Wow. The cuckoos in the nest don't seem to understand devolution. The economy is reserved. The Scottish Government only has one fiscal lever, and that's income tax. The rest is reserved and controlled elsewhere. And their imperial masters have wrecked the fucking economy with Brexit. You couldn't make it up. I was pissed myself laughing. You know, absolutely hilarious. Growth. Fortunately, Miles Angus and his predecessor have actually brought a lot of inward investment into Scotland. But growth, the cuckoos in the nest are complaining about growth. They're fucking imperial masters, for Christ's sake. They've absolutely imposed economic sanctions on these islands with Brexit. The first government ever on the planet to impose economic sanctions on itself as the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers at Westminster. You couldn't make it up. So we've got Liz the Lizard Green, Michael Mara, and well, let's face it, there is only one Fib Dem, and that's what you might call him, the stuff shut, Mr. Irrelevant, Cole Hamilton. They're all on about growth. Scottish Government's failed to grow the economy. Their imperial masters in Westminster have imposed economic sanctions on themselves and us against their will. It beggars belief. Anyway, I was rolling about laughing. Absolutely rolling about laughing. Then we get Michael Mara, the tube, the Labour Party going on about waste. Waste! Waste in the Scottish Government. Wow. This guy doesn't do irony. Doesn't do irony. Has Imperial Masters done that fucking road in the last 4 years has spent 99.8 billion up the wall in waste. The previous 4 years, before Bojo and his criminal cabal came to power, the average waste at Westminster was 5 billion quid a year. It's 25 billion quid a year now. Talking about spaffing money up against wars. And Michael Mara had the cheek to talk about waste in the Scottish Government. What was interesting was, you know, neither of the parties, I don't think they know how democracy works. If they don't fancy the Scottish Government's budget, then they put an alternative budget to the Parliament and they have a vote. I noticed that neither of the two main cuckoos in the nest along that road, the Tories and the Labour Party, bothered their arse to put an alternative budget on the table. Wow. So they complain, but offer no alternative. The cuckoos in the nest really have got neck, brass neck. Anyway, mental. So that's a budget and a budget debate rounded up for you. It would appear the cuckoos in the nest, like their imperial masters down that road, don't understand devolution and they don't understand democracy. Why didn't that? If they weren't going to agree with a budget, why didn't you put an alternative budget before the Parliament? Mental. Right, let's move on from the budget itself to the press reaction to the budget. That was stunning stuff, was it no? Or the usual pish. You know. What did we have? Let's see. That's it. The rich will weave. Nobody's gone anywhere, and I'll explain that in a minute as we break them down. Nobody will invest. Wow. Highest tax region in the UK. Ooh, thanks, Lorraine. Thanks, Geordie, for your donation before it as well. Now, let's break that down, shall we? The rich will leave. No, they won't. Why won't they leave? Well, all their assets are here. Their homes, their business premises. And the other reason why they won't leave is that these minuscule tax rises being imposed upon them. The benefits of the social contract the Scottish people have with the Scottish Government outweighs the extra cost to them. And let me explain that for some who might not understand it. The social contract here means that the riches in society get the same privileges as the rest of us. So that means no university tuition fees, no prescription charges, no dental for the under 25s, free eye tests, free concessionary travel for 12 to 23-year-olds and 60-year-olds and over. Lower council tax. We'll get a wee bit more of that in a minute. But, so, the rich are gone nowhere. The social contract still outweighs the extra they're going to pay in tax. No one will invest. Nobody will invest. I've just spoken about investment, inward investment in the last 10 years. They've been screaming we're the highest tax part of the UK for years now. Nobody will invest. People want to invest in countries with good public services. because they provide the best employees. Simple as that. And if nobody's going to invest in high tax areas, how do we explain the Nordic countries? They're all high tax countries and they're all doing bloody better than us. Aye, we could go on everyone, free bridge tolls, no bridge tolls, free hospital parking. We could go on and on and on. The rich are going nowhere. And as for this, the SNP makes Scotland the highest tax part of the UK. It's bollocks. We've just talked about the benefits there, again, being part of the Scottish tax system and the Scottish social contract. But more importantly, in the round, when you put the core taxes together, we're still paying less because we don't pay as much council tax. I don't think the people in England will know this, but the SNP had a 9-year freeze on the council tax, and they've just put a freeze on next year's council tax. So out of 14 years in office, the SNP will have frozen council tax by 10 years. So that means for 10 years, council tax has been going up in England and Wales, and hasn't shifted in Scotland. So naturally, we've got much lower council tax right across the bands. So Scotland isn't the highest taxed area. Mental. So that breaks the piss in the press down. And as I say, nobody's gone anywhere. Other social attitude studies show that the Scots are willing to pay higher taxes to maintain or get better public services. So, that's the crap in the press blowing out the water for you. Right. Now let's move out of the water to Northern Ireland for a quick hop, shall we? And it appears that the Irish state are taking the UK government to the European Court of Human Rights over its Troubles Legacy Bill. Now, the bill got royal assent in September against the will of the political parties in Northern Ireland, the political parties in the south, and victims groups in the north and the south. Now, the reason why they're going to the European Court of Human Rights is over the immunity for prosecution for people who cooperate with the Reconciliation and Information Recovery Commission. Information Recovery Commission. So apparently people who committed crimes during the Troubles, if they comply with the Commissioner for a Reconciliation and Information Recovery, I don't get the information recovery by it, but they will get immunity for prosecution. Victims groups, political parties, are no harm. Now, what's interesting is, Lord Kane, one of the ministers over there, has said this will have a bad effect on UK-Irish relations. But the interesting bit about that is victims groups and political parties in Northern Ireland are already taking the UK government to the Northern Irish High Court for this bloody bill. So, Southern Ireland are taking them to the European Court of Human Rights, and the political parties and victims groups within Northern Ireland are taking them to their own High Court, the UK government. Can you make it up? But anyway, I think you get right down to it. I think the unionists in England are starting to get a bit bored with Northern Ireland. I think they want to see them out the door. This could just be the thing that kicks them out the door. The handful of unionists in Northern Ireland are becoming more trouble than they're worth to Westminster. Don't be surprised if sometime in the next few years there's a rigged referendum getting ready, Northern Ireland. Court and the UK government seem to be two words that go together all the bloody time. They seem to be spending an awful lot of our money in court. Now let's move on to Prime Minister's questions yesterday. What a shit show that was, eh? Sir Kid Starver, he goes on homelessness and he tells the tale of an 11-year-old boy, Liam, I think he said the boy's name was, who was in temporary accommodation and had been in various temporary accommodations for a wee while. And he'd written a letter to Santa. And in his letter he says, Santa, I don't want new toys, I want them for Liverpool. So I can get my toys out of storage and have somewhere to sell. Anyway, Starmer then says to Sunak, now what you got to say to this wee boy? Sunak somehow manages to blame Labour for the housing crisis in England, forgetting that his party had been in power for 14 years. He then goes on to flip it into poverty figures. How he goes from housing to poverty, I'm not quite sure. But he goes on to brag about having raised so many out of poverty. This man's fucking delusional. With the reports at the table left, right and centre telling us poverty's up. 11.8 million people UK-wide live in poverty. 4 million of them are children. In 2022, we've just had a report saying, for the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, saying that 3.8 million people experienced destitution in 2022. 3 million people, the worst type of poverty. Couldn't feed themselves, heat themselves, hygiene, nothing. They've not a pot to piss in. And 1 million of them were children. And we've got this Wazzock bragging how he has alleviated poverty. Do you know who that 11.8 million people in poverty? 4 million of them have fucking jobs! 4 million of them are working! Fucking no real. How they get away with that, I don't know. If you were to tell a lawyer in the Scottish Parliament, you'd be in jail. Oofed. Anyway, next up was Stephen Flynn, and he went on the United Nations General Assembly's call for a resolution on a ceasefire in Israel and Gaza. And he asks why the UK abstained. He gets no answer. He gets waffle. Oh, we're in favour of a sustainable ceasefire. No. They're talking about another humanitarian pause. Fucking spanners. Anyway, Stephen goes on to explain to him that the UN calculate that if this continues, there'll be another 1,400 Palestinian children dead by Christmas Day. Wednesday, Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 5 days, 1,400 more children dead. And these bastards are sitting on their hands. Never mind this waffle sustainable ceasefire. You know, Canada, France, some of the big ones, they all voted for a ceasefire. 140 odd countries. The UK, they shame us. They shame us as a people. They shame the English peoples, they shame the Welsh people, they shame the Scottish people, the Northern Irish people, with their inaction. They are complicit in a genocide, and all our hands are blood smeared because of the bastards. Anyway, That was Prime Minister's for you. Another shit show, Punch and Judy. Alright. Right, what else we got? Shut up, you. Aye, let's move on to the day and First Minister's questions. Another shit show. An absolute shit show. Dougie Ross went on tax and the rich fleeing. No, for the reason I've already explained. Poverty pie. He said the budget was a disgrace. We cuts to the housing budget in the middle of a housing crisis and cut to mental health care. Now, when it gets to cuts to the housing budget, well, that's because the Scottish Government's infrastructure budget's been cut by 10% to Westminster. We pass on what you've got. Mental health, once again, consequentials. We go so far. And there's only so many mental health professionals in Scotland. We need to train a lot better. But it's all relevant. But thick as fuck. Really. And that was First Minister's for you, not shit show. Anyway, Dougie and Poverty Pie get their bahookie slapped and off to the naughty step. Get bored with it. Hey, let's move on to UK-wide COVID-19 inquiry as it's winding down for Christmas. Right, what's it covered so far and what's to come? Right, well, so far in 6 months, it's only covered resilience and preparedness for a pandemic. We learned that the UK government was not prepared for a pandemic in any way whatsoever, even though it had numerous exercises, recommendations, and plenty of time to put these things in place. It didn't bother. And the other thing it's covered is governance. Now, we've learnt a lot for that, haven't we? So, it's really bad. Anyway, what have we seen so far? Right, we learnt that preparedness, it just wasn't there. All right, now on governance, what have we learnt so far, and who have we seen? Right, we've seen several civil servants, including Chris Whitty, and other members of SAGE. Have we seen Dominic Cummins? We've seen Dominic Raab. We've seen Matt Hancock. We've seen Bojo the Clown, and latterly we have seen pint-sized Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. All right. Now, what did we learn through all of the above? All the people named above. We learned that the cabinet was the collective name for cabinet members was fuck pigs. We learned that. Okay. What else did we learn? We learned that the fuck pigs, Tory scum, couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery. We learned that Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak couldn't give a shite about the population. So, for Bojo, we had let the bodies pile high and nature's way of dealing with old people. And from the pint-sized Prime Minister, we had just let them die and eat out to help the virus out. That particular wheeze increased infection rates at the time by 17% and led to a further lockdown as well as thousands of deaths. What we learnt for the COVID inquiry so far, when it comes to the section on governance, was there was none. None. Anyway, we also learnt that there will be no consequences for their inactions and they'll let the bodies pile high. And just let them die in nature's way of dealing with the old people and eat out to help the virus out kill your granny, where a 17% spike in the infection rate was created. Wow, there'll be no consequences for their actions. Anyway, that's the first 6 months. So we've covered preparedness, resilience, and governance. What else is to come? Well, we've got the impact of COVID on the healthcare systems UK-wide to come. We'll get vaccines, therapies, and antiviral treatments. We'll get looking into the COVID care home killing fields. We've got the PPE procurement section to go. We've got the track and trace inquiry, the fast lane procurement system to be looked at. We've got health inequalities, which were created. Thanks, Margaret. That's awfully generous. UK got beyond belief. What a shower. You're no kidding. And then we've got the section that will cover education, children and young people. And then we'll the section inquiry, which will look at its effect on other public services. Wow. Well, if it's taken 6 months to cover the first two, this is going to take years. And cost millions. For what? For nobody to be held accountable? And for the so-called lessons to be learned, to be stuck in the cupboard, never to be read? Because that's what that will happen. For passing their findings, the government will say, thanks very much, or whatever government it is at the time, depending how long this takes. Thanks very much. Done. End of story. No real. Right, moving on back here in Scotland, and the SNP Green Government drops a challenge to Section 35 order on the GRR bill. After the Court of Session found that Westminster's use of Section 35 was constitutional and did not. So basically, we've been told that they can 35 in they want is constitutional. It's written into the Scotland Act. Okay. Now, what the Court of Session did in the day was to see whether it felt the use of it in this case was right or wrong. They just said the use of it was legal. So, democracy denied. At least the Scottish Government tried to challenge it. But they're not going to the Supreme Court with it. There's no point. But democracy denied. Remember, that bill was passed unanimously with the whole of the House at Holyrood, the whole chamber, cross-party support. But it would appear that Section 35 can be used to veto the democratic wills of the Scottish people via their elected representatives, even when it comes to legislating in devolved areas. The Supreme Court says something about Scotland not being oppressed. Democracy being denied sounds like oppression to me. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to Gaza. And what's going on? Right, as we've already spoke about, the General Assembly of the United Nations passed a resolution for a ceasefire. Israel went after nuts. And they said, get it up, bees. Yemen, one of the poorest nations on the planet, has imposed sanctions on shipping entering into the Red Sea, heading for Israel. So they're bombing any Israeli flagged ship or any ship with cargo for Israel, or any ship they reckon has got cargo for Israel. So in their statement, the Houthi said that they will continue to block access to the Red Sea for Israeli flagged carriers and carriers carrying goods for Israel. And this has had a massive effect on Israel's economy. Now, aye. Hey, thanks for the super chat. I'll put that up. I think he means Penny Mordaunt here. With WhatsApps. Thought she just hated us Scots, but she turns out she hates everybody. Right. Right, so Malaysia have followed suit. I believe China's done the same. They're on the Far East right enough. But I'd like to see South Africa do the same. Just if it's an Israeli flagship, now you can't port here. Ships be good for Israel, can't port, can't stop here. Now, what's interesting about this move by Yemen and the Houthis is that 12 of the world's biggest container companies and shipping companies, including Lloyd's and Maersk, are not using the Suez Canal anymore. They're taking the long road. That's a 10,000 kilometre diversion to get run into the Med. Wow. It's going to take longer for goods to get here, into the Med that is, and it's going to cost more. Wow. Well done, Yemen. And well done to everybody who's going to start sanctioning. And those who are boycotting Israeli goods. As we know, there are ports all around the place who are refusing to handle goods for Israel. So, it's going to damage the Israeli economy, it's going to damage the worldwide economy. And as has been pointed out, there'll be an increase in oil and gas prices and all, because tankers pass through there. They're not passing through now. And that will have inflationary pressures, which brings us on to inflation. Alright. Now I see our pint-sized Prime Minister is cock-a-hoot that inflation, the base rate of inflation has dropped to 3.9% or so, they tell us. But I have to tell you folks, the books are being cooked. The base rate inflation that the government's using as a measure for inflation is missing one huge figure. And it's probably the most expensive figure that we all face. And that is rents and mortgages, whether that be monthly or annual. Not included in the figures. So 3.9% is what the base rate is. If you're using goods and services, inflation's running at 6%. If you're buying food, inflation's running at 9.4%, which is down from 10.4 last month. So, not much comfort for that. Aye, prices are still going up, but they're just going up a little slower. But the books are being cooked, folks. When you do the numbers, omitting the biggest cost that Masonries have monthly, annually, then the numbers are skew with. It's as simple as that. So as I say, the Prime Minister, he's well chuffed. Yeah, as I say, he's well chuffed. He's claiming that he did it. Now, everybody in their dug knows that the government's got nothing to do with inflation rates. Nothing. Inflationary pressures come from all places. There's nothing the government can do about it. That's what the Bank of England does. And it uses one blunt instrument to do it. And that's interest rates. Apparently what we're seeing now is inflation dropping because of the 14 months of interest rate hikes we had gone from 0.25% to 5.4%. Or 5.25%, sorry. But hey, as I say, with the Suez Canal shut off, oil and gas prices are about to go through the bloody roof again. And then, of course, we've got the Brexit controls to come into place in 2024. I think inflation could be on its way up again shortly. So I do. So Sunak's joy at having done nothing and got the effect he expected, that everybody expected except for me. I expected it to stay higher. I expected at this point to go to chop that one off. Prediction rang. I expected right now we would be 7.8%. I don't know what it would be if you throw in the housing costs and you added in all the inflationary pressures in other sectors and boots a loud number, but I fancied it would be around about 7.88% at this point in time. So I got it wrong. But as I said, the books are being cooked. So there you go. Let's have a look, see what you guys have got to say. Now, as you know, because it's Indie Truck Davey, I would normally cut it off at this point in time. Because I did a 45-minute broadcast, I didn't do an hour. It's a wee bit difficult to do an hour by yourself. But we'll take a wee run up and down the comments here. Aye, that's a good question, Gordon. If Sunak is so in control of inflation, why did they let it get to 11% in the first place? Okay. What else we got? Bank of England said they shouldn't lower the rates. It's the only one of his pledges he's made. Didn't he meet it at all? Somebody says John Burgess is back. Hi Terry, food prices up 22% in 2 years. Oh, that's brilliant, Matt. Long route will close soon. South Africa to meet and decide on banning Israeli boats from docking. They're good. Food inflation 9%. Aye. Catch up, Adele. Naughty Steps made a comeback. Just put your arse on it. Don't burn it in the candle. What else we got? More than it's more than dropped a WhatsApp on the COVID inquiry. I might catch up with that. And Dean Hardy says we're all hooty rebels. What else we got? It's bloodlustly and they're out of control. It's time the US get a grip on the dog. And Stevie Banker says if we all spoke Gaelic and learned Gaelic, would that not be a massive headache for Westminster? A massive headache for everybody, because everybody who wants to deal with would need to learn to speak it as well. What else we got? 19 billion to end poverty in the whole of the UK, now in Scotland. And 30 billion for a phone app. Billy, sometimes you make sense, other times you're just a palm. Okay. Anyway. So it's been quite a frustrating week at Westminster. It's been a hell of a year. A hell of a year, Jesus Christ. When it comes to incompetence personified, we can see why the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers really need shut down. It's time for English people actually to rise up and rip it up and start again. What's section 19? Depends on what you're referring to. Surely. Depends on what you're referring to. But thanks for Thanks for the super chat. You've been awfully generous lately, Jordan. You've all been awfully generous lately. It's been a shite year, Millie. I hope it gets better. But anyway, folks, that's what I've got for you in the style Andy Truck TV. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found it informative. I hope if the audience in England now understand terms like House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers and Cuckoos in the Nest. You know, I want to thank you all for being here in such great numbers, 194 watching live. But Davies half a day, and I've just opened a beer, trying to come on air. So I'm going to bugger off and enjoy it. You all look after each other. Keep your eyes on the prize. And we'll catch you all again on Monday for the Christmas special 2 to 12. Okay, mind Reagan Elite's YouTube channel, folks. I'll put a link into the YouTube page. Jump across and help get Reagan Elite up to 700. Maybe manage to get him up to 1,000. Okay, right. Thanks, folks. Bye the now.